study teacher, and my sweet, salty sister in Christ, Miss Rochelle Burchett. Happy Mother's Day, Salties. It's great to be back with you in the station, in the studio tonight, and we're so excited. We're going to detour a little bit. No pun intended.
Throw that word in
No
there.
pun intended. A little bit off because today is Mother's Day, and when it becomes things that we really want to talk about. So we're going to have some great conversation and talk about some women in the Bible, women in our own modern day world life, and how we can share some encouragement with you, whether you're a mother or not, right?
Yes.
And we have some announcements. I'll let you lead up with that, Cassie.
I gotta spit that candy out because I can't talk with it in my mouth. Okay, so Grief Share is going to be Tuesday night. It's going to start back at the Southside Free Will Baptist Church. That's going to be at 6:30. And on Thursday will be the final session with that group at 6:30. And they are going to do the last session at the Paintsville Lake and weather permitted on that. So that is for Grief Share. Tuesday night begins the new session at Southside Free Will Baptist Church at 6:30. Thursday will be at Calvary Church of God, and that is the last session with that group. And that's at the Paintsville Lake.
And of course, I started to say Wednesday. I don't know what is wrong with me tonight. Must be another year over Mother's Day. So on Tuesday night, we have PAL led by Ann Ratliff, Parents of Addicted Loved Ones. And I'm telling you, the group is growing. And I've been there the last two times, a little bit for the second portion. And listen, it's women that are actually coming together and getting help, with Casey Law, with what it means, the walkthrough. And we do have some special things planned to help educate everyone about what you can do if you have a loved one that is an addict. So again, that is at 404 on Main Street in Paintsville, Tuesday night at 6 p.m. And if you have any questions, please feel free to message us. So now we're going to talk about, I had the privilege this morning of getting to speak at Southside just to do a devotion for mothers.
Yeah.
And I want to start off with a little bit because you know how much I love the woman of Thebes.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared this morning that it's those moments when you're reading through the Bible and then all of a sudden this insignificant little part just comes out at you.
Yeah.
And so in Judges chapter, which I'll probably never find that in this Bible right now, in Judges chapter 9, I love that, and I have really written this down in Appalachia terminology so that I can pronounce his name.
So we can.
Abimelech. I think that's how you pronounce it. So in the book of Judges, chapter 9, that Abimelech he had just gone rogue, and he was really just going to. It says in verse 50. Then Abimelech went to Thebes, and he camped against Thebes, and he captured it. So the enemy's kind of a lot like that. He'll camp out so he can capture everything that's going on. He says, but there was a strong tower in the center of the city, and all the men and women with all the leaders of the city fled there and shut themselves in the tower. So Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it and approached the entrance of the tower to burn it with fire. So can you imagine all the townspeople? If here in Johnson County we're all running to one thing just to be protected, and this tyrant is out and he's going to set us all on fire. I mean, can you imagine how, first of all, claustrophobic,
Right.
scary, all those things. And then this is the key word. I want to challenge every woman that's listening tonight to be a certain woman. And it says, but a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head, crushing his skull. Then he quickly called to the young man, his arm bearer, and said, draw your sword and kill me, so that it will not be said that a woman slew me. So the young man pierced him and he died. But peace was brought back because a woman that was faced with fear, can you imagine? And the piece of millstone was just off of a larger piece that was used to crush wheat. But here's this woman. I thought about David and Goliath. I think you said before, Cassie, that we just sometimes have to throw the rock and God will guide the stone.
That's right.
But I think about her. I mean, what are the odds of dropping that from a tower and it crushing a man's skull?
She used what she had.
And she didn't ask permission.
That's right.
She did. I mean, I can imagine my heart would have been beaten out of me. Well, this is all I've got. And sometimes we have to give just all we have to make something happen. Right. And so she did it. And it crushed him. It's the people talked about this certain woman. And sometimes, even though we're not a mother, we may feel insignificant if our name isn't mentioned. But there's so many certain women, a certain woman in the Bible who did so much.
Right.
I think about the lady who had a issue of blood. She was a certain woman, and she was pressing through that crowd.
That's right.
And so when we are where we are, we have to think about what is our role, working our station in life.
Mm-hmm. Doing what? I mean, we've all got a story. We've all got the journey.
Yes.
We've all got detours. But it's so important to use what we have. And all these women that we talk about were amazing women
Yes.
that used what they had. And they were
Yes.
just awesome.
Well, when you think about, I like what you said, using what you have, we can't be ashamed of our story.
Mm-mm.
That's the part that God gets the glory. And we say that all the time, our story for his glory. Sometimes the ugliest of stories, that's the things that we have endured, our detours, are things that will give God the greatest blessings, but only if we share them.
That's right. That's right. I say all the time, I tell the girls at residential, and I won't go into all details on the radio, but there's always someone in the Bible we can all relate to. That's our personal walk, our personal story. And it's the woman at the well. She's my girl. She's my girl. Because when I came back, I was saved when I was young. I was just probably 9, 10, but I left. I left that and I went out into the world. And just like he told her, you've had 5 husbands and the one you're living with, that's not your husband. But then she met number 7, which was Jesus. She's my girl.
Yeah.
Because that was me. I always had the nickname Runaway Bride. I always want, and you know what? If they were rich and good looking, that was what I liked. I was along for the ride, until I truly met Jesus. And I tell the girls all the time, I had a man problem. You all may have had a chemical addiction, but I had a man problem. And people look at us and they think we're so put together and we've got everything so perfect in our lives. But nobody knows what the oil cost me. Nobody knows what the anointing and what the breaking and the crushing.
Yeah.
No one knows unless you share that story. And I am where I am today because of where I've been.
Yes.
And where he's brought me from and delivered me from. And just like her, when I returned back, I said, God, if you'll have me back, I will serve you. I will love you. I will tell my story all the days of my life. No, I wasn't perfect. But you know what? God doesn't remember any of that. And I only tell it just to give God the glory.
Of course.
That's
yes.
it. That's it.
But the thing of it is that if we came here, with our lipstick on, our hair flipped out, and we're sharing all this stuff, it could be discouraging.
Exactly, because
yes, if you don't,
they feel like they're not enough.
Yes, if you're not willing to tell your story, then it makes other people feel normal sometimes. Or some people will say to me, well, I feel a whole lot better after talking to you.
Yeah. I always kid and say, God does truly have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
He sent me a husband, a preacher husband, just to keep me straight.
Well, and I think about that women do so much, and it's more than just being a mother or not, whatever, just thinking about the strength and things that we endure through motherhood. But it's all about the women that I have encountered in my life that haven't ever been a mother, but they have nurtured. We all have our station to do that. And then you all know that this is one of my favorite ladies is Deborah in the Bible. How that she sat under this tree and she was this judge, and the General Barak came to her and she said, here's the plan. And he basically says, well, I'm not going to war unless you go to war with me. And she says to him, I'll go to war with you, but the battle's not going to be with yours. And I cannot remember the young lady's name, but when they went to war, she lured that king into her tent and she put a tent peg through his head.
Yes.
And I think about the women who have to do the hard things.
We do.
And so here's what it says about Deborah. It says she is described as a prophetess, a judge, a wife, a warrior, and a worshiper. She made history by bringing change to a nation in turmoil. She inspired a general, rallied the troops, brought freedom for millions of people. She's an excellent example of a woman who served in leadership. And I think that she brought peace to them for 40 years after they had been in such turmoil. All because she was willing to use what she had
to do what she had
to do.
That's it.
And I feel like recognizing, and Pastor or Brother David said this morning, you have to focus on not what we have, not our source, but who is the source, right? Not what we have in front of us, as he talked about the Shunammite woman this morning, the widow.
Yeah.
And those are just really powerful things. And then this morning I also shared about you girls, how you have been certain women in my life that when I got the call that yucky, rainy, awful morning that the neighbor said, your son has overdosed and they're working on him. And I remember driving out there, and I called Leah because she was closer. And in the pouring rain, she went to stand in for me. In her wet hair, right out of the shower, she went to stand in for me.
Yeah.
And getting there, knowing that the body temperature was so low that it was just a miracle.
Yeah.
Then you message me, and I say coffee, and then you message Tina, who I didn't know, and then Tina messaged Anna, who I didn't know, and then Anna came and brought coffee. As insignificant as that may seem, it's about the moment that you're in. When she brought me that coffee, and that she prayed the most beautiful, powerful prayer while I was in the ER, not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
But it's about every woman being able to do your part with what you have.
That's it. And no matter how little or small it seems,
cup of coffee,
just do whatever he tells you to do.
Obedience.
That's
yes.
it.
Because there are other women depending on each of us to work our station, to be a certain woman in the life of others. That's what we're called here to do.
That's exactly.
So another woman that I want to talk about, and I guess I'm going to be the loudmouth here tonight, but I know I share this so much. This is one of my all-time favorite stories of Susanna Wesley, John Wesley's mother. And she said that she vowed in her life, listen to this, she suffered illnesses, disease, poverty, the death of children, fire twice destroyed their home, but through it all, Susanna accepted the will of God and placed herself and her family in his hands. And I love this because she early on vowed, God, I will give you as much time as I gave myself leisure time. But you can imagine with this household, the family, there was no leisure time whatsoever. And I thought this was so powerful because, see, it's about making time.
Right.
And she put God first.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that she literally, Mother Wesley's solution to this was to bring her Bible to her favorite chair and throw her long apron up over her head, forming a sort of a tent. And they liken this to the tent revival or the days of Moses in the Old Testament. It says every person in that household, from the youngest child to the oldest helper, respected that signal. When Susanna was under the apron, she was with God, and she was not to be disturbed, except in the case of dire emergency. This is the privacy of her little tent. She interceded for her husband and children and plumbed the deep mysteries of God in the Scriptures. The holy discipline equipped her with a thorough and profound knowledge of the Bible. See, she set aside this time. And what I love about that is that we have to set aside that time that other people respect. Yeah. This is my time with God.
Right.
We need to put God first.
Right.
This is, unless somebody's dying, don't call me because I need to be with the Master's feet. I need to be in that. But what I love about this is because she had two of her sons, John Wesley, ended up preaching to over 1 million people. His brother, Charles, wrote over 6,600 hymns, one of which we sing is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Because of one mama who dedicated 2 hours a day under her apron. I imagine I would have been fogged up and everything, but thinking about while she was there, she couldn't go to a prayer closet or a prayer room or a war room. She created her own space, and that's what we have to do.
Yes, we do.
But because here's the story that I love about this, because she did what she did, she set such an example that when Professor Orr from the Wheaton College took his theology students to visit his John Wesley's house, and when they went upstairs, the carpet was worn out in 2 spaces where he had been on his knees praying like his mama taught him.
Yeah.
They watch what we do.
Right.
Everyone, whether it's our children or not. And I'm ashamed to say that I haven't worn out any carpet like that or worn out the wood floor like I should have when I see the impact that a mother's prayer had on her children. But it says that when they were leaving, one of the students was not in the bus, and when Professor Orr went back to the house, he found a man on his knees with his Bible, with his knees in the holes that had been worn out in that carpet, and he was saying, "Do it again, God, do it again with me," and it was Billy Graham.
Oh.
And so when you think about, because Susanna prayed, and she led this example that followed down to her child, that her child made such an impact on a man who also changed our nation.
Yes.
That he was real. I mean, I just get so, just because I think about, what if we ever once said today, "Do it again, God, do it with me."
Yes.
I mean, I want you to use me.
Right.
The power that God's able. We have to be willing.
Yes.
And he will make us able. But I think about When I look at the woman of Thebes, it says she defends her city, she defeats the enemy, she was a hero in battle. She was not trained in the art of war, nor did she have experience fighting in battle, but she found a way to overcome the enemy and provide a future for the people of Thebes. From her to Susanna to Deborah, there is so much power that we have if we're willing to allow ourselves to be used as that vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about, it makes me just want to wear a carpet out or put a rug down so that I can just wear it because I have hardwood floors. But when you think about all of the abilities that we have to be a certain woman, and it doesn't mean that we're going to be, our name is not going to be in lights. And sometimes those are the best moments. But I will never ever look at a styrofoam cup of coffee again. And I can tell you that if I close my eyes right now, I can vividly see that room and Anna coming to me.
Yeah.
And then knowing that Anna lost her husband a year before and that she weeps when she makes coffee because that's what they did together. She did a hard thing for someone she did not even know.
Right.
And that's what we're called to do, the hard things.
Yeah, that's the sacrifice.
Exactly.
That's the sacrifice.
It's the living sacrifice, daily tearing those things down. Yeah. It's so important. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you think about, I think about being a mother, and we can all tell our stories. And I think one of my favorites is when it comes to being obedient and disciplined. Tyler had, when I was not, I guess, paying attention, apparently I had laundry in piles all over the floor. Mm-hmm. And he was already in bed. And I went and I picked this load of laundry up, and there was red lipstick written all over the carpet, and laundry had been set back on top of it. Oh, I thought, all right, I'm going to go in there. And I go in there and I'm telling him, I said, did you do that? And that's not acceptable. And he goes, well, the truth of the matter is, if you'd been watching me better, that never would happen. So how do you argue? Well, you're right. So what do you say, right? It's not right. But thinking about the things of motherhood, and sometimes it's not about us watching them better. It's about them watching us better. Right. It's about living that example. And I know you have a story that, as a motherhood, about Olivia, that's my favorite story.
Well, there's several, but I will tell this one. So Olivia, when she was about 4.5 to 5, she loved to write, draw, whatever. And she had just gotten in trouble the week before at my friend's house for drawing triangles and circles on the bar stools, but she didn't get, she just got
scolded.
Scolded. So the next week, we went with my sister-in-law. And we were on our way back, and Olivia asked for a pen. And so I gave her a pen and paper. And so we were in the front seat, my sister-in-law and I, just talking.
But the kicker is, you were in a brand new
leather seat, really nice SUV. And we were just talking, and I happened to turn around and look, and Olivia had taken that pen and drawn triangles and circles and squares all over the seat beside of her where she said, and I literally about died.
I would have died.
And my sister-in-law, she's like, it's okay. I mean, what else are you supposed to say, So she got a really bad in trouble for that. She got a spanking with that. And she even had to write her name on the paddle since she liked to write so much, and she misspelled her name. She left the I out, but
Well, Trenton used to carve his name into things, and he'd swear he didn't, but he would misspell his name. Instead of spelling TRENT, he wrote TNT, like dynamite. Yeah. I was like, okay, he's been carving the furniture again. Yeah. So there are things that they do, but as mothers, as women, how that we love them so much that we're able to surpass what those things are, because there's nothing that my boys could never do to make me not love them. Right. And that's exactly how God feels with us.
Yeah. Right. Well, when Luke was little, he had this little battery-powered four-wheeler and that he loved to ride. And he'd gotten in trouble many times for getting off of it and not turning it off and letting it roll, And so I had this vehicle that, didn't have accidents very often, but this particular vehicle had been in the garage twice in the last, 2 or 3 months. And I was cooking dinner, and I look out the window, and Luke is just bawling, and here he comes in, and I'm like, what is it? And his dad's behind him, and he's like, come here, look what your son, it's always
your son, yep.
And so he had jumped off of his four-wheeler and had rolled into the side of my car and put a big dent in it, and I was just like so mad, and I was, how you go off and say, it's going to cost $500 to fix this, and so then I just got ashamed of myself. I thought, it's just, here's this little boy, he could have gotten hurt. And so I went to the store down the road just to get what I needed to kind of cool off. And on the way back, I felt so bad. I thought, Lord, forgive me for, being so hateful to him. I'm going to apologize to him when I go home, even though he, should have been in trouble. So I go in the house, and on the table, I just started crying. He left all of the money he had and 2 Walmart gift cards that he had. And he said, "Mom, I hope that'll pay for the car." And so then I had to say, Luke, you should have listened, but I shouldn't have yelled at you. It's just, and I mean, he was, snubbing, crying so hard, and I felt about that tall.
No, as women,
But,
we endure so much because it's like taking on nurturing or caring or whatever. Our roles are so many.
Yeah.
And I don't know about each of you, but I've heard this so many from different women in different places. The enemy is attacking the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the thing in my mind. The thoughts that go in my head sometimes, I would never want to speak out
loud. You would never
because
even think them in your,
no.
They're so like, where did that come from?
Why am I thinking this? And the challenge is like, ministry's hard. Things are tough. And the enemy always says, you just need to, just give it up. And the thing that it is, every time that I feel that way, that's why I will go ahead and do a video, because I'm going to show you, no, I'm not going to listen to what you're telling me until the Lord says, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to push through, especially when your mind is beating you to pieces.
Yeah. But that's why it's so important that we have to know his voice.
Yes.
And his voice, a stranger, he says that they will not follow.
Yes.
And he's not a stranger to us. And if we ask him for direction, he will give it to us.
Right.
Yeah.
He will give it.
And I think that's what, recognizing that we are women.
Right.
And I feel like that's the strongest thing. And I, would have loved to have witnessed Susanna Wesley, because she literally made her boy children and her girl children learn the Bible, and she homeschooled them. And they said it's kind of where like a Sunday school started, because people would come and camp out around her house the window to hear her teach her kids. What a testimony in the community while her husband was off. They said that her husband didn't do very well with money, but he was out trying to preach the gospel. And thinking about those things, that this woman who suffered so much disease,
and she had
death,
like
and loss.
19 kids?
It was a ton of kids and loss.
Wow.
But I think about, she knew God so well, his voice, that she knew there was nothing that's possible without having God first. I think if we could ever get ourselves to that place that he has to come first.
Yeah.
And we have to say, I don't want anything but him first.
Mm-hmm.
The overflow will come. The source, he is the source.
He is, that's right.
And
every resource we have need of, he's got it.
Yes. But as the speaker was saying this morning, we let fear override us of what we see.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not what we see, it's what we should know.
That's right. That's what we know.
Over and over again, we should know that he is at the right hand of the Father. He is on the throne. Mm-hmm. He is able.
And we are his children. Just like we've talked about how much we love our children, we are his children, and no good thing does he want to withhold from us. Just like the good gifts we want to give our children, and how much that we love our children, how much more that he loves us.
Yes.
And
talking about remorse, when Cole was little, he was helping me carry in the groceries one day. He was this little tiny thing. And I put all the groceries at the door when I walked in. Okay? I'm a fanatic about carpet. Y'all know that, right? So he was helping me. Here he was carrying this, and there was nowhere to sit the groceries where he was at. So he just went like this, threw a gallon of milk, and it bust and went all over the carpet. And I was like, I felt bad because I felt like I acted pretty ugly too. But then when you realize it's just carpet.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
carpet.
just stuff. That's
it's
what
just
I say.
stuff. It is just stuff.
It's just
right?
stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
I mean,
it's
I still feel bad when I think and tell that story. I still just, my heart.
Because you wonder,
Because, I just see that little snubbing, his little helmet still on. He was just, But.
Well, and then when I wasn't giving Cole the attention he needed, he literally took a knife and cut the telephone wire because I was on the telephone. So sometimes things will happen to get our attention, to disconnect that connection of whatever we're doing, to stop and pay attention. What's wrong with the phone? Well, I cut the cord.
You were on it too much, yeah.
Do you have any stories of their children to stick out?
I was sitting here trying to think about that, but I'm telling you, I have so many, and I cannot honestly pick out one. And if I pick out one, the other's going to say, well, Mom, I can't believe you didn't share this or that or that.
Well, I have another really funny story.
I'll let Leah share some.
Okay, so when Olivia was little, I would tell her all the time if she would cry, I would say, oh, Olivia, let's not be ugly. Well, So we went to the doctor's. Kid was always sick, and so we're at the doctor's office, and this lady comes in with this newborn baby, and that baby's just crying. And Olivia looks at me and says, "That baby is so ugly." And I knew what she meant, but you talk about wanting the floor to swallow you up, and that lady just looked at me, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." What she means is, because I tell her this, and the more I talk, the more it just sounded
The worse
worse.
it got.
So it's probably not a good thing to tell your kids that it's
No,
ugly
no.
because she's like, that baby is so
Well, that
ugly."
whining and pouting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of the things that they mimic us without us even realizing it. So if
Yes.
you're a mom out there,
Yes.
I'm sure you have your wonderful story too that you would love to share with us. We would love to hear that. But also, if you are not a mother, you still are a certain woman. God created you on purpose for a purpose. And what does the shirt say?
Created with a purpose.
Yes, thank you, by the way. She missed the cue about wearing the shirt tonight. Cassie got us these awesome shirts.
And then didn't wear it.
And didn't wear it.
mine.
Yeah. So, but you are created on purpose for a purpose. And I always say this as we're getting ready to close here. That small little acorn can grow to be over 125 feet tall, 75 feet wide. That little acorn is packed with that whole tree
Yes,
inside of it. And
yes.
God has packed so much inside of us, so much
Yes.
purpose, that it would be a shame to not open it, because when that tree grows, it stands for up to 100 more years. It is a place for people to come have refuge, animals to get food, birds to put nests, things about shade. It provides so much. And we as certain women can do that too.
Yes. Someone's always looking at us, watching us, needing and depending on us, and it does matter. I don't know. It just matters what we do. It does matter because there are lives that we have influenced that are watching us that depend on us to make
Yes. You know what I love, and I know I keep going back to this, but it was so instrumental to me at my time is when I was in that hospital room, you said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Maybe coffee." And even though you couldn't get there, you texted somebody who knew somebody who texted somebody. It's about working your station.
Yes.
It's about, and I think about how she must have felt. And when she packed in her pocket every kind of creamer and sugar you could imagine.
And it's letting God honestly just intertwine our lives.
Yes.
He does not bring our paths together by accident.
No.
He knows who we need, when we need, and what we need.
Yes.
And we are so strategically intertwined together.
And
the people we need.
And that's the thing. No matter how it says a certain woman, even though she doesn't have a name, we'll always wonder.
Yeah.
But she's been talked about for years.
Mm-hmm.
So we have each the ability to be a certain woman every single day, even if it's a cup of coffee, even if it's a text. It doesn't matter what it is. We have that power to be a certain woman. Because other women need us. Other women need you to step up to the game. And if you feel that tugging in your heart that you need to do something,
just do it.
Just do it. Because the Lord is set you to
Even if it sounds crazy and you're like, why would you ask me to do something like that? I've never done. That's when you need to really do it.
Exactly.
You know that's God.
And you may never know. Yes.
He's never going to tell you to do something good.
Yes.
Ever.
Or like sometimes if you ever felt like, oh, you think of somebody you hadn't thought of in a long time, and you feel, I should pray for them. And you're like,
or give them a call.
Yeah.
You have no idea that they're hanging on the edge, needing something. I was discouraged a long while back, and almost time to go. This girl messaged me, and she said, "I don't know you, but I know I saw you on your show." And she said, "I was doing my dishes, and the Lord brought you to my mind, and I want you to know I prayed for you to be encouraged." You see, He sends people.
Yes.
And it's scary to say things that you don't to people you don't know, but I needed to hear that.
Right.
So be that certain woman today. Think about, look through the women. There's so many women in the Bible and in your life, and look at those traits and just become that certain woman.
Yes.
Well,
happy Mother's Day to all of you.
Happy Mother's Day.
Until next week, stay salty.